Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Alley from Corbett podcast. I have a very special guest today. And before I introduce him, this is mid December 2024. It's almost Christmas time. It's almost Hanukkah. It's almost the holidays. You might be getting asked, what do you want for Christmas? If you're a job seeker, you might be getting asked, what do you want to do in your career next? So I want to have this special episode as a holiday gift to you to help you figure out what you want to do and why, so that we can start 2025 on the right foot. So I would like to introduce you to my good friend, Dr. Gary Sanchez, who is an international speaker. He's an author, he's an inventor, and he used to be a dentist. We're going to talk about that, but he is also, more importantly, the owner and CEO of the Why Institute, which helps people figure out why they do what they do. And we're going to get into that and how it relates to your professional life and your career. So welcome, Dr. Gary Sanchez.
Allie, thank you. I'm excited to be here. This is going to be fun.
Awesome. I'm so excited to have you. Thank you for your time. I know you're a busy guy. It's the holiday season, so thank you for joining us this morning. So can you please tell us what you do and kind of how you got into it? Because it's a really special story and I would love to hear it.
You know, you said something kind of funny right out of the gate, and that was he used to be a dentist. And so I wonder, if I was a dentist, am I always a dentist?
Yes, you're probably
Okay,
still a dentist.
Okay, I'm still a dentist then.
Yeah,
So
once a
yeah,
dentist, always a dentist.
I did not get into this to build what you're going to hear about today. This is not where I am right now is nowhere that I thought I would ever be. You know, like you said, I was a dentist. I graduated from USC Dental School back in the 80s, which I hate to even say, 1988. The advice that I was given by the gurus of that time was build a great product and people will come. Right? Go out and do the best job you can. People will naturally, mysteriously find you and they'll come see you. And so I spent 20 years doing that, reaching the highest levels you could get to in dentistry, studying with the best mentors, going to the best institutes, building a beautiful practice, buying all the technology, hiring and training a great team. And I still blended in with everybody else who said, yeah, I'm a dentist too. Drove me freaking crazy. I had never worked so hard at something and not gotten the results that I thought I would. And I was just ready to quit. I said, you know, this is not worth it. I'm working way too hard for what I thought I would be doing. And that's when I went out and hired a coach. I hired a guy by the name of John Assaraf. If you've ever seen the movie The Secret, you know who he is. And through him, I learned how to use the internet. I learned how to do websites, drip campaigns, and SEO. So I could tell all the world about me, how wonderful I was. The only problem was, what am I going to say? What am I going to say that separates me from everyone else who does what I do? And since I didn't know and I didn't want to sound bad or desperate, I didn't say anything until I heard him interview Simon Sinek. And I learned about that concept of why. So 100 million people have seen that TED Talk. I think you have as well, right?
Absolutely. Love it.
Yeah. And me too. I watched it 20, 30 times. I read his book multiple times and I said, that is what I'm missing. I have a great what, but I don't know my why. So I became obsessed with trying to figure out my why. So I called Simon. I said, hey, Simon, I need you to help me discover my why. So he and I spent about 8 months together going back through my life. This was back in 2009, trying to figure out what my why is. And we got close. He didn't really have a process for it, but I kept working with it. And I finally figured out, Allie, that my why is to find a better way and then share it, to find a better way and share it. My life has always been about finding better ways to do things and then sharing them with the world. I have a lot of patents and products and inventions that are better ways of doing things. And so I took what I learned from John Assaraf and what I learned from Simon Sinek, and I developed a process, a whyification process for my practice, where we stop talking about what we do, crowns, bridges, fillings, all that really fun stuff. And we started talking about why we do, what we believe. And that's when my practice really took off. Like, we believe that life is better when you have great teeth. In fact, you can't have a good life with bad teeth. And as my practice took off, I started getting calls from other dentists that wanted me to help them. And so I went back and figured out what Simon was trying to do, and I made it better. So instead of taking 6 or 8 or 10 months to help someone discover their why, I could sit down with you in about an hour, help you figure out your why and build your messaging, marketing, and branding right there. And so I used to do this for free all over the world. I did it for 7 years. I did it for free for anybody that would let me. I'd bring people out of the audience on stage with me, discover their why in front of the audience, and then build their messaging, marketing, and branding right there. So I started to notice patterns and trends and similarities. And I figured out that there's only 9 different whys. And once I figured that out, then I could help someone discover their why in about 15 minutes. Then I could teach other people to do what I was doing. And then I could get more data. And with that data in 2016, I developed the algorithm and wrote the software where you could find your why online in about 5 minutes. Now, Allie, I had done more why discoveries than anybody in the world. And I was only about 70% accurate. 30% of the time I got it wrong. So if everything in your life is based on your why, it's pretty important to get it right.
Yes.
My software was 100% accurate. I gave it away to hundreds of thousands of people for free to test it. And then in 2021, we launched the YOS discovery, Why Operating System discovery, that finds your why, your how, and your what, and builds your message for you in about 8 minutes. And so that's the one that you took. And if you want, you and I can go over your results for your audience so that they can see what we're talking about.
Yeah. And I have it up on my screen right now. So I'm looking at my why, my how, and my what. And I got to tell you, this is me in a nutshell. And when I read this out loud, it might sound vague, but I know exactly what this means and how it applies to my life, my past, my present, my future. So I'll read it. So I believe, and this is my why. I believe that success happens when I contribute to a greater cause.
Hmm?
My how is how I do that is by solving complex and challenging problems. And then my what, ultimately, what I bring is a trusting relationship where others can count on me.
Yep.
So when I read that for the first time after I took, do you call it a quiz? What do you call it?
No, it's a YOS discovery. And I'll tell you why we
Discovery.
don't call it a quiz, but
Okay. So when I took this first discovery, I thought, oh my gosh, this explains a lot. And I have a LinkedIn learning course about how to create your personal brand at work. And part of that course is, all right, figure out what your personal brand is. And then I go on to talk about, how to get that out into the world. But that first part of figuring out what your personal brand is not just as easy as, okay, go figure it out. Because some people go, well, I don't know what I stand for or what I want for my job, my career, my team, my department, my employees. So when I look at my why, my how, and my what, it makes things make way more sense in my life and my work, really.
let's dive a little bit deeper into that for your audience. So
Okay.
what Allie just told you was her why is to contribute to a greater cause, add value, have an impact on the lives of others. So what that means is she's somebody that really wants to help. She doesn't necessarily have to be the focus, but she wants to contribute in a meaningful way. So she uses her time, her money, her energy, her connections, her resources to push other people forward. And that just comes natural to her. That's what she loves doing,
And I
right?
appreciate it in others as well. Somebody recently came to me the other day and said, "Hey, I want to let you know. I know you haven't done this before, and I want you to know I've been doing this for a while. And if you have any questions, I'm here to help you." And immediately, I appreciated them. I felt like I could trust them. I felt like I had a comrade, and I didn't feel so alone in this new thing that I was trying. And so, not only is that an important value of mine, but I appreciate it in others as well.
Yeah, exactly. And so how she does that, how Allie does that is by solving complex and challenging problems. It's the why, her how is make sense. So her what was contribute, how is make sense. What that tells us is that she's really good at solving problems. She can figure things out fast. You can dump all your stuff onto Allie, and she will very quickly synthesize it down to the thing that's keeping you stuck, help you understand it, and help you move forward. She's a great problem solver. Feel right?
Yeah. Yeah. And back when I was interviewing for jobs, I didn't know that this is what I was talking about, but I would sell myself in an interview in this way. My background is in engineering, and being an engineer is all about solving complex problems. Sometimes they're mechanical problems, sometimes they're software problems, whatever they are. If you can solve a problem and figure out exactly what the issue is and propose a solution that is maybe elegant or simple, you're a great engineer. You will
Mhm.
get the job, you will wow your interviewers. And that's just one example of how we can use this in the professional space. But this really resonates with me, the challenging problem aspect of this.
So now let's get to your what. So her what is ultimately what she brings. So ultimately, what Allie brings is a trusting relationship where others can count on her. So she wants to be that trusted source. She wants to be the one that grabs your hand and walks you to the finish line. She wants to be the one that you can count on. If she tells you something, it's going to be the truth. She cannot lie to you. If someone were to break your trust, Allie, does that just kind of annoy you, or is that like a knife in the gut?
We're done.
We're done.
Yeah.
And so that's the way that she views things. She wants to be that person for you. And so if she tells you something, it's going to be the truth. There's no way she can lie to you because it would go against it will kill her to do that.
Yeah. And I have a story, a quick story of this has been inside me since I was a little girl. So I was 7 years old. I went skiing with my mom and my sister. We left my dad at home, but I got to wear my dad's ski jacket. And it had a ski pass on it from the year before. And we went up to the line and everybody was checking our ski passes. And the woman looked at mine and she looked at me and she goes, "Is this your ski pass?" And my mom gave me this look, and the look in her eye said, "Just lie, honey. Come on. You're going to save me $200. Just, you can do it, sweetie." And I said, "No, this is my dad's pass from last year," as a 7-year-old. And my mom got so mad at me. But later, and I didn't know as a 7-year-old that the truth and trust is important to me. I didn't know why that upset me so much, but that is a core memory of mine. And you're absolutely right. I hate lying. I don't want to have to lie. And I value people who can tell the truth and who are transparent. So this has been with me since the beginning.
So what Allie's talking about is that it gives her the words to clearly tell the world exactly who she is. So think about this for a minute. Allie and I meet. We're on Zoom here, or on
Riverside.
online. We're on Riverside. I would look at her hairstyle. I would look at what she's wearing. I would look at what's in the background, and I would create a narrative around what I think I see. And that's who Allie would be to me. How long would it take me? How many conversations would it take for me to know what we now know about her? That she wants to help, she wants to solve problems, that she wants to be trusted.
I mean,
would
if
I
you were
ever
good,
know that?
Maybe not.
Exactly. But now I know it right away. So let's take that and let's say Allie comes to me and says, "I hate my job. I'm in the wrong spot. I don't know what I want to do. I don't even know how to figure out what I want to do. I don't know where I'm going to find my fit. I don't know where I'm going to find my passion. I'm struggling." Well, now that I know her why, her how, and her what, it becomes infinitely easier to help her figure that out. People don't know what they want because they don't know who they are. Help them figure out who they are, and it becomes infinitely easier to help them figure out what they want. So let's go back to Allie. So Allie's why is to contribute to a greater cause, right? Add value, have an impact on the lives of others. Her how is makes sense, and her what is trust. So if we put Allie in a place, or she picks a career path where she gets to help people have a bigger impact, help them solve their problems, and be that trusted source for them, Allie, how would you feel about that job?
I can tell you exactly how I'd feel because that's what I'm doing right now. And it took me 15 years to figure this out. I had a lot of breakdowns and aha moments, but that's exactly what I'm doing now. I have a career development community where I help people figure out what they want to do next in their jobs, how to change jobs, how to change careers, how to get their next job. And it feels so good when I get that message from people. "Oh my gosh, they sent me a job offer," or "Oh my God, I got the job," or "The interview went really well." I feel like I think what you said before was like, holding somebody's hand across the finish line. That makes my heart feel so warm. And I go to bed and I sleep so good at night.
Okay, now let's take the flip side. Now Allie is in a job where she doesn't get to help people. She doesn't get to solve problems. She gets to sit in a cubicle and crunch numbers, and people are always questioning her whether the numbers are accurate or not.
Oh, that would be awful. I'd be dreading Mondays. I would be having bags under my eyes from not sleeping at night. I would probably have a scowl on my face. And more gray hair and more wrinkles. And I would probably be miserable, and the people around me would probably be able to feel that. And the morale, I would probably be just bringing it down wherever I was.
And now let's say you've been in that spot for a year or 2 years or 3 years. And what would people now say about you, right? There's something wrong with her. She needs therapy.
Yeah.
She needs help. She needs. And all you needed was a new career.
Yeah.
Where you
Some
get to
clarity.
live your why, your how, and your what. Nothing's wrong with you. You're in the wrong spot. That's what's wrong. You're not the problem. The spot is the wrong problem. The career path is the wrong problem. So let's not try to mute Allie. Let's try to figure out who is Allie, and let's help her be the best version of herself in a place where she'll get valued, appreciated, and love what she does. And then let's watch what happens to Allie, that same person who's depressed and all those other things. Now let's watch what happens to her. Is this making sense?
Yes. And I've seen that transformation in people in their professional lives. I had a guy come to me once, and I never saw him smile. He didn't laugh. He didn't tell stories. He was data driven and very matter of fact. And he couldn't tell me what was next in his life. He could only talk about now and the past. And I kept wondering, why is he not able to think about the future? And I helped him figure out what he wanted to do next. And he was scared at first. He was like, I don't know if I can make that jump. What's that going to be like? The unknown is scary sometimes. We don't know. We like what's familiar. It makes us feel comfortable. But he got out of his comfort zone. He got a new role in a different type of role than he was used to. And he is smiling now. He is thriving. He's making more money. He just bought his first investment property. So this translates, I think this translates to making more money in your future as well. Because when you are smiling, you attract. That's the secret, right? Like the law of attraction. So
it's not easy to switch careers.
no.
So I told you I was going to tell you the story about the Advil.
Tell me.
So as I talked about earlier, I was a dentist for 32 years. And I had developed this why thing that we're talking about. And I was doing it for anybody that would let me. I mean, telling you, if you're sitting in my office getting your teeth fixed, well, you're getting numb, we're going to figure out your why. If you're sitting next to me on an airplane, you're going to get your why discovered. And so it became this thing that I was so passionate. It just fits me perfectly. My why is to find a better way and share it. How I do that is by making things clear and understandable. And ultimately, what I bring is a simple way to move forward. So it's got to be better, clear, and simple. So this YOS is a better, clear, and simple way for you to understand yourself so that you can have a bigger impact. And for me, doing that for people gave me unlimited energy. I could do it all day, every day, 24/7. And so I went to Zozobra, which is an event in Santa Fe. I'm in Albuquerque. My buddy had his 45th birthday party up in Santa Fe at this thing called Zozobra. It's kind of like a Burning Man thing, but it's more of a show.
I've seen that. They burn this big giant thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. So I was there, and of course we ate and drank a little too much, and I wake up the next day with a headache. So I take a couple Advil, go back to bed, no big deal. And I don't take many medications ever. So it's not maybe Advil every 6 months. And so go back to bed. Well, one of the Advil didn't dissolve, and it lodged in my GI tract, and it burnt a hole right where there was an artery. And I didn't know it. And so I just not feeling good, and I must be hungover or something. So I go back to Albuquerque, which is like an hour away. I go to the gym, I work out, and then I get home and just start throwing up blood, and blood starts coming out everywhere. And so I go to the ER, and it was a busy weekend, holiday weekend. So they made me wait 11 hours in the ER. And for 11 hours, I'm throwing up blood. And by the time they finally admit me, my blood pressure is 60/30, and I've lost half of my blood. And so it was such a busy weekend, there wasn't a private room. So now I'm in a room that's not private, and I had to go to the restroom. So I get up, go to the restroom, and I lock the door behind me. As soon as I lock the door, I pass out, I hit my head on the sink, and I'm out. Luckily, I woke up and there's blood everywhere. And so I push the door open and I pass out again. And luckily, somebody finds me. And next thing I know, I wake up, I'm in this bed. They've cut my clothes off. I have the 2 pads on. They revived me, off to surgery to try to get to it. And where it was located, they couldn't get to it. And so they just waited. And they decided they were going to do a CAT scan to see if I've stopped bleeding. So they pump all this dye into my arm and they blow out my arm. And my arm starts filling up with blood clots. So now they do an ultrasound and they find the blood clots are growing into my lungs.
Oh my God.
So the doctor walks in and says, hey, we got to stop these blood clots because they're growing into your lungs. And if they get into your lungs, you're going to die. But if we try to stop the blood clots, you have a bleed in your GI tract that we can't get to. So you're going to bleed to death and and you're going to die. And I said, well, what are we going to do? He said, I don't know. So luckily my phone rang right at that moment. It was a buddy of mine that was a cardiologist at the hospital. And he said, hey, Gary, I didn't even know you were in here. He says, I don't like what they're going to do. I'm going to take over. So I was in the ICU for 9 days. If you've ever been in the ICU as a patient, it's a pretty crazy experience. A lot of stuff happens to you in there. Eventually I had to go to bed one evening with an IV of heparin to stop the blood clots and hope that I didn't bleed. And since I didn't bleed, they were able to then treat it with blood thinners. And obviously I survived because I'm here. And that's how I made it through. But when I finally got out and I got back to my practice, one of my patients who was in his mid 80s took me aside and he said, hey, Gary, you got a second chance on life. And he says, when you get to be my age and you look back on your time here on earth, are you going to be glad that you stayed a dentist? Or are you going to wish you'd taken this Y thing to the world?
Whoa.
I said, I'm going to wish I'd taken this Y thing to the world. And he says, well, then you know what you need to do. So I walked away from my practice, which was doing very, very well. I was only working 3 days a week, making a lot of money, 4-day weekends every week. I could have just wrote it out, but it wasn't what I should be doing with my life, right? It's not where I want to. At the end, I would have looked back with regret, thinking, why did I stay there? I'd already done enough. It wasn't where I really should be. This is what I should do. This is where I can make the biggest impact. And so I walked away. So it's not easy. And it takes a lot. It took a lot for me to walk away. I don't know if I would have walked away had I not been through what I went through. Right? I don't know what I would have done.
People that are listening, I don't want you to have to almost die to have this realization. You shouldn't let it get to that point. And so a lot of us have this whisper in the back of our minds, I think there's something more out there for me. And sometimes we quiet that down and we go, shh, 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 come on. That sounds like that's not the path of least resistance. That's the path of most resistance. But it can open up such joy and happiness for you and money, and just it can make your life technicolor. If you are living in a black and white world right now, it can bring color to your world. So I'm so sorry that you had to almost die.
So what I learned from that is that figuring out what you want to do doesn't necessarily make your life easier, but it makes it way more fulfilling. Yeah. And so step one, for everybody listening, step one is figure out who you are. If you do it with a method I have, great. If you do it with a different method, great. If you go sit in a dark room for a week, great. Whatever you need to do, figure out who you are, because then you can figure out what you want. If you don't know who you are, trying to figure out what you want to do is virtually impossible. It's just, you got to rely on hope.
Yeah.
I hope I figure it out. I hope I pick the right thing. I hope.
You might be wrong too. You might choose the wrong thing and then you're wasting time. Precious moments of your life. So I can guarantee you right now, there are people listening to this and they're going, I want to learn more. I want to figure this out. So what can they do? Tell us how they can learn more about the Y Institute.
Yeah, the simplest thing for you to do is just go to wyinstitute.com, wyinstitute.com, and take the YOS Discovery. It's $97. It's not expensive, but it is priceless. And it will give you the words to tell the world exactly who you are. And when you know that, so there's a really big difference, Allie, between kind of sort of thinking maybe I know my why and knowing your why. Huge difference. When you know, then if what you choose to do with your life is in line with your why, how, and what, like we just talked about with Allie, you're going to love what you do. You'll have passion for what you do. And passion is the fuel that gives you the energy to pursue your dreams. Without passion, you give up, you quit.
Yeah.
With passion, you persevere. So figure out your passion, figure out your path, figure out your purpose, figure out your fit, and then go do it. Don't do it the other way. Don't go do it and then say, oh, was that right?
Right.
Figure it out and then go do it.
And like I said before, it is the gift giving season. It's mid-December. If you know somebody who is spinning their wheels, depressed at work, sometimes we can see the potential in others that they are not able to see in themselves. It's hard to see the forest when we're in the trees. This would be a perfect gift for somebody also. Maybe a spouse, maybe a sibling, maybe your parent. People retiring also. I hear a lot of times people retiring and they're like, I don't know what I'm going to do in retirement. This doesn't only apply to work. This can be anywhere in life.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Allie. I'm going to give everybody a code that'll give it to them for the holiday season at half price.
That is so kind of you. Thank you.
Use this code, put in podcast 50, and you'll get it at half price.
Oh, Gary. That is the holiday spirit right there.
You know, the more people that know who they are and know what they want, the more they can live their passion, the more, just think of the impact we can make if you get people you're in a perfect example. The impact you were making before versus the impact you're making now.
Yep. Worlds of difference. And I want to be surrounded by people who know what their why is. Because we've all been surrounded by groups of people that are just aimlessly going through life with no purpose and no direction. We all have that purpose inside of us, but we have to uncover it. And so I'm so glad that you were a guest on this episode today and you are giving people that vehicle for how to do that. So thank you so much for the discount code. So you said podcast 50?
Podcast 50.
Thank you so much.
Do you want us, I don't know if we have time, but do you want me to talk about resume?
Yes, please. Let's keep this going. Please.
Okay.
That's one of the biggest questions I get. Resumes are, how do we sell ourselves on a piece of paper?
Typical resumes are, here's what I did, here's my name, here's what I did, here's when I did it, what do you think of me?
Right.
I've seen lots of resumes come over my desk.
Boring. Yep.
Boring. In fact, so I'll tell you a story about a friend of mine. I'm going to cover his name just because I didn't okay this with him, but he was the commander here at the Kirtland Air Force Base. And he was leaving the Air Force and going into the private sector. And so he got out and I went to his retirement party and he was like, I don't really know how to talk about myself. And he showed me, here's his resume for those of you that can see it. And it was just exactly what we talked about. Here's what I did. Here's when I did it. What do you think of me? And these are some pretty freaking amazing things that he's done. He was in charge of $900 billion, just amazing things that this guy's done with Desert Storm and a lot of other things. So he had all the credentials you could possibly imagine. And he sent out that resume that I just showed you and was not getting people calling him back. And it was frustrating. He's like, something must be wrong with me. Like, do people not value me? Or like, why am I not getting what I want? And so he asked me if I would help him to redo his resume. And so we did it. Here it is right here.
That's a good looking resume.
And I just covered his name. But if you look, it starts with
I believe. Why. Yeah, my why. My how and my what.
Yes. And so if you start your resume with your why, your how, and your what, then everything you tell them after that is proof of what you just told them. You will stand out, you will get the right position, and you will be able to answer any question in your interview based on your why, your how, in your what. So, Allie, why would I want to bring you into our company? You say, well, if you're looking for somebody that can help others have a bigger impact, push other people forward by helping them solve their problems and being that trusted source for them, well, then that you're looking at the right person.
And who wouldn't want that?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
maybe they're not. Maybe they're just looking for somebody that's their bookkeeper, their new bookkeeper.
I'm not the right girl then, and that's fine. I wouldn't be happy in that role anyways. So it's probably best that I'm honest with them about who I am so that we figure out if I'm a good fit or not.
In any question they asked you, you could pick out your why, your how, or your what, or all three, and answer any question they ask you based on that. And it would be real, it would be authentic, and it would separate you from everyone else who's applying, saying the same old thing. I'm looking for a position where I can use my talents to blah, 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 blah. Talents, I don't care about your talents. I care about who are you.
Mm-hmm.
I could teach you anything. You're not going to know what I'm doing anyways. I bring you in, I got to train you anyways.
Right.
I want to know, are you the right person? Do you think the right way? Is it going to be the right fit? Are you going to love this position? Are you going to love doing this? I could train you to do anything. But if you're not going to love it, I'm going to waste my time and your time.
Right. And I love how you talk about proof also. If you have your why, your how, and your what at the beginning, maybe your objective summary, and then the rest of it is proof. I talk a lot about how resumes are mostly you telling somebody what you do and what your skills and experience are. But if you can show them, that is so much more powerful. That is 2-dimensional versus 3-dimensional. So if you can, yeah, show it again.
The reason I'm showing it again is you don't have to call it your executive summary or whatever you said. Just call it my why.
Yeah.
He is now the head of rocket engineering for Blue Horizon or Blue Origin in Florida, and got his dream job and loving it, loving life. And so I can tell you story after story after story. Here's another one right here. I mean, it can be very, very simple where you just see there's my why right there.
Yep.
At the top. And then everything else is proof of what you just told them. They don't have to try to figure out now who they're talking to, because that's what happens. We're doing an interview. I'm trying to figure out who is this person I'm talking to? Like, who are they really? I see what they've done. I see when they did it, but I don't know who they are.
Right.
Well, tell them who you are. And then all that's proof. And then every question that they ask you, you'll answer that gives them more proof. And then very quickly they can decide this is going to be a great fit or it's not going to be a great fit. And either way you win. Simplify.
You don't want to waste. Yeah, you don't want to waste your whole interview where the interviewer is trying to figure out who you are. Just tell them up front and then prove it for the rest of the 29 minutes.
There you go. You got it right there.
Yeah.
It'd be fun to see you now go through an interview, because
that would be fun.
I'd love for you to create your own resume based on your why, how, and what. You know, my why, how, and what right there, and create your own resume and go sit and go through an interview and just, or even a mock interview. Mm-hmm. And just see how that would play out, because I think you'd find it fascinating how easy it is to answer. I'll give you one last story.
Wait, I'll do you one better before you tell that story. But I do this without having known about Y Institute. I did this in the last interview I was in. So my how I do that is by solving complex and challenging problems in an interview. And I'll tell you, I don't normally tell people this publicly. They have to pay for this information, but I'll tell it to you guys for free today. In an interview, I always ask the question at the beginning or in the middle of the interview. I don't wait till the end. I ask the interviewer, so what's your biggest problem that you're trying to solve at your company or in your department? Every single answer to a question they ask me after that, I phrase it in that regard, because I love solving complex and challenging problems. So I have been doing this. I just didn't know I've been doing this.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So I play squash, and I was playing squash with this young guy who was trying to get into med school. Mm-hmm. And man, he was like the perfect candidate, top of his class, top of everything, just volunteered for a year, and he could not get into medical school. It was ridiculous. So he asked me if I would write him a
letter of recommendation.
Recommendation. Yeah, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
Letter of recommendation. So I wrote his entire letter based on his why, his how, and his what. And then I taught him how to handle the interview so that he could answer it all based on his why, how, and what. And so he went through that process and just, got into that year he got into all the schools that he wanted to go to, because he now knew how to talk about himself and not just all the things I've done in the who am I really? And this is why medicine fits me to a T. And it just was so much easier for him to handle the interview, handle all of it when you know who you are. So it really goes back to, people don't know what they want because they don't know who they are. Help them figure out who they are becomes infinitely easier to help them figure out what they want and why.
That is so powerful. I love all these stories that you have. You must also be sleeping good at night, knowing that you're helping people live the life that they deserve to live because of who they are on the inside.
And we've done this with over 300,000 people. We've done this with more than 1,000 companies now, helping them figure out who are you? How do you tell the world exactly who you are? How do you attract the right people to you? How do you develop your messaging, marketing, and branding all based on that? If I could give one last thing is, if all you get out of this is you got to start with your why, your how, and your what, your YOS. If that's all you do is figure that out, you're going to be blown away by what then opens up for you and how much easier it is when the question is how, the answer is your why. How do I find my passion? How do I find my purpose? How do I find my direction? How do I build my messaging, my marketing, my branding? How do I connect better with others? How do I tell the world who I am? All those are really hard questions unless you know your why, your how, and your what, and then they become very easy to do.
Awesome. I love that. Well, thank you so much for enlightening us today and helping us all figure out how we can be our best selves out loud in life, in our personal lives, and our professional lives. This was really awesome. So again, I'll say that code for 50% off. It is podcast 50. Thank you so much, Dr. Gary Sanchez. This has been amazing and, like I said, enlightening. So if anybody has any questions, I think your information is on whyinstitute.com, and they can probably also find you on Instagram and LinkedIn, right?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. And if you're a coach and you feel like this would be something that would be valuable for you to utilize in your own practice, feel free to reach out, because it'll make what you do even easier.
Managers too. Any managers that are listening, have your teams do this.
Yep. There's a whole process for it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I will catch you all next time. Thanks for tuning in.